What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. Action, Mr. Rob, Mr. Ray. Rob, newest member of the team here. What's going on, brother?
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, let's hop into it. Rob, I think you have some reporting to do, if that's cool. Last time we talked about leverage, and you went out. Crazy thing, you actually fucking did something, which is awesome. Yeah, and that's not a dig on Rob. That's a dig on, like, hey, when you learn stuff as a group here, go and actually try it and test to see what we're saying and see if it works. So, Rob, what's the report, brother?
Well, with that whole leverage aspect from the last conversation we had, utilizing some of the tech, and I was kind of working on it, but it's nice to see that coming to the group and having positive feedback through success in the real world. It's great to actually see that's like what we talk about makes a difference. So that was something I thought was really cool. That positive feedback from that conversation we had as a group.
Hell yeah. Love it. So
and for those tuning in for the first time, do you want to remind us what the topic was and maybe a little bit of texture on how you actioned it?
Well, we were talking about leverage, like utilizing things to create more opportunity without excess work or more work. And then in my particular circumstance,
or like the CC line in an email, or like a form letter, like all these different things can leverage 5 minutes of time, right? Instead of reaching one client, they can reach unlimited clients.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's social media or whether it's, I don't even know if it's worth discussing what I was using, but there's a company called Bonzo, which automates text campaigns, which is tremendous. Also, there was another email campaign called Rebump. I don't know if it's worth ever listing these things if anybody could potentially use them, but I've had great success with both of them. But it was just nice to see immediate feedback, like literally talking about it, getting excited about it, executing it, and then getting that positive reinforcement. So it's like, what we talk about does make a difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially if you actually do it, which is outstanding. And I mean that sincerely. Another component to this is I want to be really careful around this topic, because there's almost a reflexive nature to this conversation of how do you use leverage properly to all of a sudden, well, just how do I get to passive income, bro? And just live the rest of my life on a beach. Like, you got to be very, very careful about the shades of gray in between those two polarities. I personally think using intelligent leverage is the only way to grow if you want to get to certain levels. But getting, in my opinion, to a point of where you have so much leverage that you're not even doing anything because you want to go off into this eternal bliss forever. Not only have I never seen it, I also, when I've even seen remotely that version of life, it seems to produce some version of misery that I want nothing to do with. Rob, have you experienced or observed that same pattern?
So could you phrase what you were saying in a little different? I don't fully understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I want to be careful around the topic of leverage, because it's like the kissing cousin of, well, I want so much leverage that I just have millions of dollars in passive income coming in every month, and I don't have to work ever again, so I get to retire when I'm 30.
Yeah.
I've two things. I don't think I've ever witnessed that full version of it, like observed it in society or with my peer group. So I've never seen that where just some dude just makes so much money per month that he doesn't have to do anything. But if I have seen a slight derivative of it, it seems like it produces unhappiness, where you don't have to produce value at all for society. You just have all of your resources given to you, and you theoretically think that you've reached nirvana, but I've seen it be the opposite.
I definitely have a cautionary tale on that for sure. Because employees can be leveraged, right? So with the mortgage industry, there was a point in time where I didn't necessarily have to work. But what I realized is unless you really are committed to your craft and you really, really find that drive within, which is probably a good conversation we could all have, is like how to stay motivated and hungry. But with that being the case, not having to work, and then what happened was the mortgage market changed, and now I'm back in the trenches. And all that time, I regretted not working harder or like not sharpening my skills. It was like basically a 2-year period where I felt as if I didn't grow because I was I wouldn't say over leveraged. I just wasn't leaning into that pitch and leveraging and working hard.
That's actually a pretty interesting topic, because the version of, hey, well, you could coast, but temporarily. That's a fascinating pattern. You coasted, and I'm not saying you, Rob, but I'm saying you could coast temporarily, but then if you have to get back into the game, you've now forfeited multiple years of skill acquisition because of that coasting period.
That's exactly what happened. That is exact. And not only that, I feel like I regressed because you get rusty.
Mm.
And Rob, are you talking about the interest rate shock that the mortgage industry experienced in recent years?
Correct. Yeah. So mortgage was just on a trajectory where we've never seen it, because 100% of people that had a mortgage had to refinance, and it created a boom. But I understood the marketing of the mail. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Wes wants me to share, but basically it was so easy. You could plug in and go from a standstill to making $100,000 a year. So someone goes from, a Starbucks barista to that. And if you give them the formula, and there's margin in it, so like the person that shows them that method can make money from them, and they can still make great money. So you kind of get complacent. It's like a fat cat type dynamic.
Yeah, and I think complacency is the key word, because we definitely, I'm not in the mortgage industry, and my wife and I are not both in the mortgage industry. But the interest rate shock that we experienced when our monthly payments went up created a huge disruption in our home, in our stress levels. The same thing with all our friends, the same thing with a lot of my vendors. And so even though I'm not in the mortgage industry, I also was complacent in my own way during the era of cheap money, or whatever you want to call it, where Wes, this is kind of like what comes to mind is Jim Rohn's metaphor of the seasons, right? In business, in winter, you should be or in summer, you should be gathering your acorns because the winter is coming.
Yeah.
And so there was a kind of a preparedness gap or preparedness fog I was in, where every day people were talking about interest rates have never been this low. They're sure to go up. And I just had a kind of manana attitude.
So, and Ray, not to harp on you, this is why it would have been helpful for me to start that wealth building podcast that we started probably a couple of years ago. So are you saying you had a variable rate mortgage and still have a variable rate mortgage?
Well, it's in my particular case, the house was bought outright, and we had $1 million line of credit to help with a renovation. And so that $1 million line of credit is my version of the mortgage.
Oh yeah.
That went from, $1,000 a month to service to $6,000 a month over the course of various interest rate hikes. And
holy shit. Yeah.
And then the level of animosity between my wife and I kind of went up.
Was directly correlated
as well.
Yeah.
Right. And
directly correlated with Jay Powell's decision.
Our sense of the precarious nature of living to paycheck went up as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, we could unpack that for days, man. Yeah,
but
dude,
I think the key issue that links Rob's situation to my situation is like the not being prepared for the shock, or not being in a position to really be a winner, because there's winners and losers when these changes occur, right? Or at least there's people, and if there's not winners, then there are people who are armored against those kind of changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so getting back to the core topic of leverage, and be careful of Rob's cautionary story of like, hey, you might think that it's absolute euphoria to have the biggest lever on earth where you've got to do the minimal, if not zero, but you are forfeiting something in the meantime, which gets us back to the topic that we often repeat here, which is like, be committed to creating value forever and always. There is no pause button on that. There's no stop button on that. Phil, let me throw the mic over to you. What are your thoughts, pal?
I don't know that I have anything really valuable to say about that at the moment. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what to say about that right now.
Well, I can throw something out there for you, because I know how much you love it when I compliment you. I mean, think about what you did recently. You made a video game, and by yourself, and if you don't mind me saying this, with probably the most minimal tools that one could have to make a video game. And Phil, if you don't mind me saying, for everybody listening, he did that when living in his car. And then he got that out there to the world, and he sold several $1,000s worth of the video game. I mean, if that's not fucking an example of leverage, I don't know what is. So I know Phil's too humble to say it, but for sure he can use it. Or sorry, for sure he's used leverage.
So I'm wondering what I mean, I know you don't really know, none of you guys really are much familiar with like the specifics of the game I sold. So I don't know if you can answer this, but like, what would you say that I leveraged? Like, 'cause I guess I'm just a little bit unclear on what exactly leverage is, like,
yeah,
specifically.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there's all different types of derivatives with it. So for instance, if we look at leverage at its basic level, is just like, per unit of input, how many units are you getting of output? So if you plant one seed, how many fruits do you get from that seed, if that makes sense?
So okay. So I'm going to ask a really dumb question if I'm cutting boxes at UPS for $8 an hour, am I leveraging something? Am I leveraging just my body strength, or what am I leveraging?
Yeah, I mean, so if we had to look at the scale, right? If you wanted to use a metric of, let's say, time, and let's say work. So if I were looking at the person at UPS cutting boxes, his time is how he gets compensated, most likely, let's just say, for instance, right? Well, you were working the same amount of time, let's say during your video game. So let's say you both worked 10 hours. Well, somehow you were able to make $4,000 in the same 10 hours that he was only able to make $400, just as a rough example. Or if you want to stick with the UPS example, imagine that guy's cutting boxes, and he's just using whatever, an X-Acto knife to cut boxes. Well, now instead of, let's say he's cutting flat boxes, right? Let's say he puts another box under the box, right? They're collapsed boxes. Okay. So now for every strike that he makes, he's now cutting 2 boxes for the same unit of strike. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess what I leveraged is, I had an extremely small follower count. For most people that make any money on a game, I probably had way less followers than them, so I have way less reach, for my marketing by default, and also have not really any good marketing skills. So I guess you could say I leveraged. I'm not sure which thing I leveraged. I made a somewhat original game, I guess. I think is really the only reason it sold as much as it did. I'm not really sure.
Well, no, I can tell you right now. So, for instance, the internet is to human beings' productivity what the car was to human beings commuting. Right? It's so profound that we take it for granted now. And the internet is 1,000x of that. And we've got really big news today. Mr. Corey is here with us. We've been trying to get him on. We're going to embarrass him. Here's an example. So Corey's a very close, both Rob and Corey are very close friends of mine. Corey has an amazing story. And Corey, let me know if I get any of this wrong. If we're talking about a story of leverage here, Corey comes out of college with not a computer science degree. From my understanding, doesn't necessarily like what he's doing or feels like he can do more, goes back to education, not through traditional schooling, but does Coursera and other versions of online tutorials, gets his, I guess, computer science certificates or some sort of credentials, et cetera. And now, I won't say his numbers, but now has a very successful career in computer science, as well as successful side gig. Corey, please take the mic. I mean, talking about leverage, Corey's job is the definition of leverage because he uses technology to enhance his value. Corey, let me throw the mic over to you, bro.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Thank you for the warm up. And can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in regards to leverage, I mean, do you want me to introduce myself, kind of my background first, Wes, or you want me to talk about the topic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Corey Damber here. Nice to meet you all.
And he's jacked. Him and Robert jacked, just so everybody knows. We'll do a short episode next week.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do the posing. We'll save that for a Monday meeting.
Get the oil ready, Corey.
So yeah, just like Wes had kind of mentioned, you know, traditionally, I went to school for economics, was a math guy. I think, Robert, I've known Robert for a long time. He had recommended me to go into computer science since we were children. Just never felt the need. I was an athlete my whole entire life and loved playing sports and never felt the need to kind of sit in front of a computer. As I, graduated college and finding myself, applying for jobs, I got my first job kind of like as a sales guy, and the act of making money was really what kind of drove me. I saw the potential in software, in our company as beginning stages where we were leveraging, Excel and, very, very low level applications. And I kind of started there. Excel was my first love, and, find myself loving the math component of it and the automation component of it. And then I started to, find interest in coding specifically. And so in the meantime of my career working as kind of like a sales agent, I would, take these online classes. Today, there's so much opportunity. There's so much free, free education out there, and everything's on YouTube. And so I just basically watched as many videos as I possibly could in order to kind of develop my skills, not traditionally taught. And, in my spare time, I kind of worked up the skills and started to kind of propose different solutions to my company at the time. And they started to bite on it. And then I started to kind of gain more traction in that area of expertise. And now in regards to kind of leverage, now every job that I have, I look for opportunities in order to innovate. What are we doing currently today, and how can I build out something better, something more efficient, something more scalable for the future? And I kind of use that methodology to parlay my W-2 salary, and then also my consultant background as well. And just using, obviously not taking anything proprietary, but using that knowledge base in order to make industries a little bit more tech focused, like mortgage, right? It needs kind of a revamp, and coming up with solutions, working with individuals like Wes and and Robert, that have a healthy finance background and understanding where the pitfalls are of customers, and seeing how I can kind of build out solutions in order to help that framework or solve those problems. And that's kind of, how I came to be and how my career kind of came to be.
Yeah, I mean, Corey is a perfect example. We're in a very weird, unique stage of business right now, which is typically, historically, the real business titans were able to lever their cumulative skill set. So like the older you got, the better you got at business. And the more relationships you got, the more money you got, et cetera. But we're in this very fascinating period of business where those older killers are almost dismissive of computers and the internet. I mean, it's unbelievable, to the point where I talked to a business advisor of ours recently, and we were talking about basically going and levering social media for marketing. And this guy is an absolute beast. But for this particular topic, he's like, oh, that's a hobby. And it's like that is literally, and I've talked to several people who are at that level, and I'm talking an extremely high level of success. And they think that the internet's still, cat videos and whatever, it is unbelievable how much people are sleeping on that at the highest rung of the ladder. Ray, what's up, brother?
I'm just thinking, Wes, I want to put something to you. Given what Rob and Corey just said, I think their journey has like much bigger applications than just tech or computer science or mortgages, right? Like, what comes to mind for me, Wes, is like combining their journey with your advocacy for using the internet as a lever. What I'm thinking of is like, no matter what your industry is, you can look at what are the pain points that your clients experience, right? Whether it's like, can't get a hold of my broker when they want to, or, too baffled by all of the mortgage paperwork, or like, for me, like, an expensive piece of art seems snobby. And I'm thinking like, what comes to mind for you, Wes, when we think of like industry agnostic ways in which any entrepreneur can use the internet as leverage to identify and solve for pain points of their clients?
I could probably tell you the first thing that comes to mind is, how do you do it faster? Right? Like, Corey, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you look at any industry and it's like, how can I cut the time in half or more than that?
It's really what it comes down to is friction, right? Obviously what you need to understand first and foremost is your industry, your vertical, right? Understand, is it the problem of getting customers in the door? Is it a problem keeping customers? You find where that friction is, and then you try to alleviate that. And sometimes that can be customer journey, multiple touches, right? I know, like, I'll give you one example just in terms of finance, mortgage, right? It's easy. It's relatively easy to get someone in the door, but to keep them engaged and keep them, it's a long tailed process. It could take 30, 60, 90 days. And so keeping them engaged, not shopping for other alternatives, that's really the key. And so like, one example is having a drip campaign in order to say, hey, this is the status of your loan. How's everything going? Do you have any questions? When it comes to paperwork, right? There are so many opportunities and tools, especially in the technology age, where generative AI is being used to have a chatbot in order to help your customer base just understand general terminology or documents, or answer any kind of questions that really kind of take you out of that process. Because I mean, at the end of the day, Ray, like you're one individual. You can't answer everybody's questions at all time. And so how do you supplement that based upon your customer process in order to kind of alleviate that pressure? Robert, I saw that you raised your hand.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to say, like,
just to
from
put
the
you guys,
outside oh, sorry, go ahead, Wes.
Sorry, yeah, I just want to gear everybody up. What I'm hoping for is a classic Corey and Robert argument. I'm going to try my best.
Don't you dare.
A cage match?
Don't you dare. Yeah.
Hey, friction creates fire, Wes. That's all I'm going to say.
Preach.
Yeah. No, but just from the outside perspective of what Corey's saying, like if anybody's viewing this and they're at a quandary in life, I mean, there's a couple things that he had mentioned that he's leveraged that I've seen from a different perspective because I don't know what he does. I just know that I need what he does. So like we're actually collaborating now on a tool that we're hoping to be able to implement shortly where I'm actually levering him and he's levering me. But that's, for the sake of people, surrounding yourself with good people is a form of leverage too. But also with Corey, like I saw him really kind of be at a point in his life where he didn't know what he was going to do because he didn't like what he was doing. And he did lever the access to that technology, the education. And in fact, he brought my brother into it too. So it's like, no matter where you are at in life, the internet is a resource for anybody to utilize to get to where they want to go. I mean, Corey's a director now. I mean, he's definitely grown a lot. And so he's really utilized leverage quite a bit. And another thing that I don't know that if anybody's interested in understanding, but this no code he's talking about, or like Bard or ChatGPT, like he's the guy to ask. And it's interesting because I know that's a huge form of leverage that people are going to be utilizing and are already utilizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, to Robert's point, like perspective as well, right? I represent kind of like a different part of any kind of process in comparison to Robert. Robert might be more sales and marketing focused. I'm more technology focused. And to give you to kind of talk a little bit about the example that he kind of brought to the table was he saw a place to not necessarily innovate completely brand new from scratch, but just to make a process better. And I think you don't have to have these giant wins where you create a product, you create this absurd, frictionless state. You sometimes can innovate on something that's already been done, just do it a little bit better, do it a little bit more efficiently, and that might return the ROI that you need. And so for this process that he was speaking about, really, it was just kind of making it a little bit easier to use, making it more mobile friendly versus web, making it a little less clunky. And there are tools that anybody, not even just a technology individual, but as long as you put the effort into understanding how the tool works, you can leverage it. Like you said, there's these, which is crazy that the technology industry today is like, there's so much opportunity for people to not even know how to code in order to build things now. There's no code where it's drag and drop and kind of build out your process. There is, things like Bard, Gemini, ChatGPT, like things along that to help you kind of build these processes. Sometimes even build them yourself. Sometimes you could there are things that you can say in English language, like, hey, build me a website that does this functionality. It's done, right? And then just leverage it. And so just being aware of those opportunities and kind of digging in and leaning into them is really where I think the biggest win is.
Yeah, I love it. And dovetailing that topic into this exercise, which I have found this exercise to be really profound for me, which is, I call it the lifestyle level exercise. So I work in the wealth management space, and this really helps level set where I can understand, okay, where does a prospective client, where do they ultimately want to be? I could ask them 55 questions to calibrate this, or I could ask them one simple question. If we look at your North Star, do you want to be middle class, upper class, or ultra class? And I ask them to really think about that. And don't just say ultra class because it sounds good to your peers, right? Where do you want to be? And you kind of know when I say those, like there's an intuition that what each level of class might mean for you. So let me go round robin here. If you guys can quickly think on that, because I think this is so profound of an exercise. I do this probably a couple times a year. And I just shot Corey a text message probably a few weeks ago at this point saying, hey, remember you told me you want to be this class. Are you right now congruent with that? Because that's the second part of the exercise is picking the class that you ultimately want to end up in. And are you planting the right seeds to get there? So if you one day want to be sitting under a big oak tree, if you're planting sunflower seeds, then you're just doing it incorrectly, right? So the goal is not to select the right class because there is no right or wrong answer. It's where do you want to land? The goal is to make your seeds be congruent with what you're saying you want it to be. Ray, throwing the ball to you, brother.
Well, Wes, I think I naturally checked off the ultra high class box, and then because we've been having these conversations weekly and daily for 3 years, I then thought this is a trap. Wes is going to say, "Let me tell you what the average day or inbox or voicemails for a billionaire look like." Right? Let me give you an idea of how many "can I have some money, please" requests he gets. So I scratched the ultra high class and I ticked off high class because I know that there's an opportunity cost for everything, right? Like I'm in a $6 million house right now, $8 million maybe. Do I love this house? Obviously. We talked about interest rates earlier. Do I want to scrounge and like have my hair fall out every month in order to be able to walk in and out of this house? I'm not sure. Right? So would I settle for right? So like, and then with middle class, there are trade-offs there too, right? Where you are, there are lower expectations, lower, like lower price tags to the kind of things that go along with that. But then on the other hand, you don't get to XYZ. So in terms of the actual, like the inputs that are required to be an ultra high class, I think the comfort and satisfaction and contentment that I am imagining, along with all the stuff that goes with it, is high class. I'm a high class kind of bitch.
Yeah. So you sit on upper,
not ultra.
Right. Not ultra. Yep, got it.
Yeah.
Fair. I love it. That's one of the reasons for this exercise is calibrating on what you really want. Rob, let me throw the mic to you. What's your vote for yourself?
Yeah, similarly, what was that? Oh yeah, sorry about the cat. I think similarly to Ray, that's kind of where I'd like to be too, but I do struggle with the like live to work versus work to live mentality. So that's why I know the ultra high class for me is out of the question, because I don't think people truly understand what it takes to get there. Like you have to be so committed to your craft and you have to just be working, especially in the beginning, an insane amount of hours. And it's to the point where it could affect potentially family life or social life.
Health.
But I do think that exercise has helped me quite a bit. Wes, we've had that conversation too. I think that's like a great conversation to have. I've even used it or I've levered it to help other people that I work with or people that are in my life. My brother, for instance, like, what are you doing to get to where you want to go? And I think that for a lot of people, like, for instance, I give Corey a lot of credit. He has his main hustle, but he wants more. So now he has a side hustle. And I think that that's a lesson everybody should learn. And there's no reason not to. I mean, look at what Corey's done with his own learning, and my brother's done with their own learning. And now that there's a legitimate industry outside of what they do. So this little pet project I have with Corey is exciting because even though it might not yield a massive amount of money, it's just that is one of those things where I can reply to Wes like, hey, what are you doing to get to where you want to go? It's like, okay, we'll have this new pet project. Corey and I are brainstorming on it. We're going to try to create this, the software as a service. And hopefully that can generate passive income through subscription-based models. And like it gave us just another bullet in the chamber to get to where we both want to go with being high status.
Yep. Love it. Phil, let me throw the mic over to you. What's your answer for yourself, brother?
Somehow I'm a little bit unclear what the question is, but could you give it to me again really short?
Yeah. Your goal, what class do you want to land in? Middle class, and it could be lower class too. Lower class, middle class, upper class, or ultra class. Well, just for anybody listening, I don't want to take that off the table, of saying, hey, because just so everybody knows, I grew up super poor. and everybody's happy as hell. Yeah, they get to, they get to do their thing. They get to go to work for a handful of hours, come home, and life is very predictable that way. So there is nothing wrong with that. I just wanted a different version of life. So Phil, does that help provide any clarity?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wonder what middle class means these days. Does it mean I get to own a house? Probably not, I guess, anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I would.
I would like to own a house. I don't know. I guess same as everyone else, upper middle class or whatever the next one up is. That something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
It's really, you're really making me become painfully aware of my lack of ability to say what it feels very feels very kind of gross to me for some reason, to feel like to say I want to be I want to have $100 million in the bank. That sounds kind of ridiculous to me and crazy to say it out loud, but
yeah, well, and that's one of the nuances of the benefits of the exercise is like even testing yourself of, if you want something, do you have the guts to say that you want it? If you actually really do want it and you're not just parroting what is the popular thing to say.
I was actually listening. I really like what you said. I heard one of the episodes you put out recently. I thought it was very, very interesting clarification you said to Matt. You said something along the lines of like, instead of saying, what do you want? What are you willing to work to get? And I thought that was amazing. Reframe.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that I think about it in my head is like, okay, you have the ledger of like, what do you want? Then the next part of the ledger is, what are you willing to sacrifice to get it? And on the other side of that equation is, that's what you really want, right? Like Robert was alluding to earlier, right? It's okay, there's a difference between a dream and an actual like willingness to work for something to earn it. So I completely agree with you, Phil. Kyle, let me throw it over to you. What is your class selection? And what is the logic behind it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be above middle class or even higher as much as possible. Sorry, my voice is getting back now. But in regards to the logistics and the things that I kind of veer myself to get into that class is already planting seeds within finance, wealth, how am I building myself, the network, the way how I kind of talk to people. There's some days, I don't want to network. But in my head, it's like, hey, like this is gonna be a good time to just talk to someone, build that connection. And then later on, you hear them like, oh yeah, I started to build my own business, and then you watch it grow through that whole thing. And as long as you're part of the successful journey, with setting seeds in such manners in networking, finance, wealth building, I'm also skill building as well. Like I learned a lot of things within the marketing landscape of things, but also even with my personal development. I love to do photography, videography, but that also can lead to my own business later down the road. So everything that I do and everything that I kind of veer myself to, it's for future investment, such as like my PC that's built for, video editing, marketing, but also playing games with my friends, kind of thing in that sense. So a lot of things go into hand to hand, kind of handshake together, and you can pass along. Everything is transferable in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So what I'm hearing from you, Kyle, is upper class. Corey, let me throw the mic over to you. What's your answer for you and your family, brother?
The competitive nature and the ego wants me to say ultra class, but to everybody else's, kind of response, I think, there's certain things that you have to sacrifice in order to do that. And often I think, it's less about the result and where you land. It's more about the journey. I know it's very, very cliche to say, but like there's something, when you start something yourself, you build it up, you put in the time, the man hours in order to kind of create something. It gives you a sense of purpose. And I think that is what, aside from like the other things like family and friends and, social activities, et cetera. So I think my true answer is probably upper class. And then It honestly is as far as it will take me, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm open to any class really. Well, that's a lie. I prefer anything.
You're open to ultra class is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. Really, there's really only one result, and then ultra class is what I'm open to. If I could get there, but yeah, I definitely say upper class.
Yeah. No, and then I really appreciate this because making it more of a popular discussion to actually say what people want. Because if you look at it on the Instagrams of the world, it's all about ultra class. Now, ironically,
what about you, Wes? By the way, what about you?
Yeah, 100% ultra class. Like no, like not.
I didn't know
like,
that was coming though on this call. We didn't even need to ask the question.
Yeah, well, and I think it's to have like an authentic conversation around this because I love what everybody just said here, and there's valid reasons to all of it. So making all of those versions cool again. It's okay to want whatever version. And at the same time, I actually like the dynamic of almost everybody saying, hey, I want I want upper class because that is sufficient for me, which is very rational. Making that the more popular discussion because that path, in my view, is way easier. It's a way better lifestyle. It's way more sustainable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know everybody says out there in the world that they want ultra class, but it is not a fun, like, unless that's your DNA, you are not going to have a good time. It's like every basketball player saying, oh, I want to get to the NBA. It's like you have no idea how grueling, even when you're in the NBA, how grueling of a journey that is. Like I learned from some sort of video recently, it was like a rookie in the NBA. Not only did he have to play all of the NBA games, which how much do they play? Like minimum 86 games or something like that. It's crazy. Then they have to play in like other leagues, I think, like as like prep games and so on. So you're talking, and that doesn't count practices. And then you're traveling all the time. So I think it's really important to understand what that lifestyle actually looks like. For me, I know that I will be miserable going through the ultra class journey, but I will be more miserable regretting not going on that journey. So for me, it's just like, do I want to eat glass or do I want to eat gravel? And I wish that wasn't the case, but I've tried zenning out and reaching nirvana, and it's just not possible for me. Because like I've tried okay, well, I'll just kind of, I'm good for myself. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from my grandmother and it's like, hey, I got this weird letter that says my house will go up for auction if I don't pay taxes or something. It's like, yeah, you didn't pay your taxes. So now that like takes me out of like, the fuck am I coasting for? Do you know what I mean? Like I got to get back to eating the glass. So Robert, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think that there's just some context that coming from you and what you're saying from the outside perspective, and I know Corey knows this because we've talked about it, but with the DNA aspect that Wes has, like you got to have that Kobe Mamba mentality DNA. I've called Wes at like 9:30 on a Friday and he's at Urban Place eating dinner, but still working. So it's not just talking the talk. You got to walk the walk. And I commend Wes because it's highly motivating, but he's doing the steps. So, I guess it's like we talked about, like, are you really willing to pay the price? And I think some people don't realize that price is steep. And it's got to be wired in your DNA. I've seen many people, or I should say I've seen it on several occasions, but it's very rare, of people who I knew were going to succeed because it wasn't an option not to. It's like literally who they are. Like Corey's got a lot of that too. Like Wes and Corey might be the most competitive people I know, but I'll bet on them any day of the week.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that compliment. And at the same time, I'm serious when I say, for everybody listening, actually think through this exercise and come to a conclusion that is true for you, because there is no right or wrong right or wrong answer. I think though the only time the answer could be wrong is if you know you're picking the wrong class because you're trying to please somebody else. And I think that's really important. Yeah, 100%. Ray, what are your thoughts, brother?
I want to push back on the idea, or I want to interrogate the idea that you have to be born with that Mamba DNA in order to, ascend the ladder to ultra upper class and survive that grueling journey. Wes, because I don't think I have that Mamba DNA, or I haven't unlocked it yet. But you tell us everything is a practice, and is that are those two ideas incongruent with each other? The requirement for that DNA, but on the other hand, everything is a practice, which means everything can be cultivated if we practice it.
Yeah. So I think the answer is probably, my perspective is the answer is probably in the middle somewhere. To Robert's point, I think the hardest thing is trying to, if you don't have an ember of motivation, it's very hard to practice your way into that. Like to manufacture desire, I'd imagine you probably could with some exercises. But I could tell you it's an extreme advantage. And I'm being super candid here. For me, it's just literally not an option. It's like I walk around every day with a fucking rock in my shoe, and I don't know how to get it out. Now, if somebody doesn't have that rock in their shoe, I guess they could kind of try to psychologically manufacture the pain. But for me, it's as visceral as having that. And I'm dead serious when I say that. So I guess right to your point, I could see, could you come up with tricks or triggers and so on, or to like perceive the rock in your shoe? I think you could, because I think if you could focus the spotlight, for me, my focus of spotlight every single day is probably 45% misery. And it can tip the scales into being the majority. But you waking up, to use your point, waking up in an $8 million house is going to be a little harder to like recognize the rock in your shoe. Now, could you do some exercises that say, okay, well, but this isn't going well in your life and this isn't going well in your life? Sure. But you might have to manually adjust that lens versus I don't have to adjust it. It's fucking fixed.
And for those who have the ember of ambition, like I think of the cliche of the guy who works at GameStop, who doesn't, who knows he wants a different kind of life, who goes home to his roommates and they're eating junk food and playing video games and smoking weed, and knows he wants a different kind of life. What does he do to blow on those embers? Because I've got those embers for sure, man. Mm-hmm. I'm not that GameStop sub guy, but what do you tell people who know they have an ember glowing down there?
Yeah. Nine times out of 10, I could say, stop the fucking subsidies. Like, subsidies allow for some sort of like security blanket. Now, whether that subsidy be credit cards or a false sense of security with friends, or relying on mommy and daddy, etc. Stop the subsidies, because in America and developed worlds, you can have infinite subsidies. And there's plenty of different types of derivatives, right? So if you have that ember, but it's being covered up by, I'll use one example. If you have an ember of motivation, but your mom and dad are paying for your bills, how the fuck are you supposed to be motivated to the maximum degree? Because you have a subsidy. At the end of the day, you still have a roof over your head. I would actually like to almost invert that a little bit. It's like, how about you start to subsidize other people? That's how you could multiply the motivation. So if you have to all of a sudden start taking care of your wife, your kids, your grandmother, your uncles, whatever, like, you will enhance that ember versus cover it up. Corey, what is your perspective on this topic?
I mean, I agree with you. I think what it comes down to is really kind of like interpersonal understanding. Like, what motivates you, right? Is it money? Is it, fame? Is it friends? Is it, what gives you utility? And then you lean into that. And then, for me, it's a lot of those things, but being successful is something that really gives me purpose, that makes me energized when I see individuals like yourselves and, your backgrounds and your successes in different industries or verticals. It makes me want to see where my potential is. That's my own motivation. And to Wes's point, yeah, that ember, that chip is, you know, it's a level of competition as well. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to Wes and, I want to make more money than Wes. And like, it fuels me. And it's not even like in an antagonistic way. It's in a, I want him to do well. I want Robert to do well. I want you guys to do well, but I want to do better than you guys. That's my ember, right?
Yep.
And just finding what motivates you, whether it's family, maybe you just want a better life for your kids that you didn't have, right? Give them more opportunity. That could be your ember. When maybe it's, you see something on someone traveling and you're like, oh man, I want to see the world. What would it take in order to get there? So you just need to find what motivates you. And then lean into it. At the end of the day, life comes down to decision making, right? And you can either choose to, play video games in your spare time, or you could take, learning a new skill, right? It just all depends on what you want, and no decision is wrong. It just, that's just, what kind of motivates you to do that. You're like, what are you feeling at that time? And by the way, I do have to drop, and it was a pleasure meeting you all. I'm looking forward to the next session. So I'll see you
Oh, yeah,
guys,
brother.
next week.
Thanks, Beast. Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Just
Anytime,
final thing to think through here, guys, is that there's pros and cons to each one of these levels. My personal take on this is the downside of going to, let's say, ultra class is obvious, right? You could sacrifice relationships, you could sacrifice time with your kids, you could say whatever. We know that narrative. But if you don't go ultra or upper, let's say, then in my view, the risk that you take is you will not develop your maximal opportunity for skill acquisition. And there are going to be times where your family or your friends or your business or whatever is going to need somebody to solve those problems. And I refuse to call another man in those times. I fucking refuse it. Because in those times, will me be admitting that, oh, I'm calling Tim over there because he actually played the game full out for the last decade and I didn't. I just fucking refuse it. Absolutely refuse it. Rob, let me throw the mic over to you.
Well, what's interesting is it's so weird how there's so many parallels to what we talk about with actual things that I'm experiencing in my life. But I feel like what helps me with like kind of blowing on the ember is even this, like just being around people that are like Corey had great advice, Ray had great advice, Wes had great advice, Phil's got great advice, Kyle's got great advice, right? It's like all that helped me stay motivated. By the time I'm done with these, sometimes I feel great, or I have a conversation with Wes, I feel great, or I get together with Corey and like we work on something, and I feel great. Like I don't want to borrow other people's ember, but I feel like we can stoke it together. So like I've really, really decided in my life, and it's advice that you've heard it so many times, but for some reason, until it hits and resonates with you, it just doesn't stick. But I think surrounding myself with other people that are high level has really done a great job keeping me motivated, because I did feel like potentially I was in a doldrum or in a lull. And it's like, having conversations with Wes always helps. And like just anybody that's motivated, it helps,
Hell yeah. Ray, final words of wisdom, my friend. Oh, sorry. No, Ray, pause, please, if you don't mind. Phil, let me throw it over to you.
Oh, I mean, I was just going to add a little earlier to like what Ray was saying. Like, I think, I'm still trying to figure this out for myself, Ray, because I really feel like I'm probably I'm an extremely ambitious person, and the only reason that doesn't manifest in reality all that often is because I'm holding myself back with a lot of different mechanisms like going on in my life, like I think my main problem right now is just fear in general, is like fear of taking on new challenges and fear of, many different things, fear of failure, fear of whatever, fear of the unknown. And I think, I just feel really strong. I've always felt really strongly that I don't really believe anyone is naturally unambitious. I don't really think that that's a thing, because that's just not the way humans are. Like when someone is like spent, working some terrible job that they hate and they go home and smoke weed and watch YouTube for 8 hours. Like, I just don't think that's really a thing that's like normal. That's not normal. That's maladaptive behavior. That's not healthy, normal human behavior. Like, I always think, like, people talk about what would happen if we have universal basic income. Like, if everyone got like $5,000 a month, like, I always think if you got $5,000 a month right now and you have no obligation, whatever, like you can live on whatever money they're giving you, and then what you do with that is you do nothing for years. Like, I think you have some serious emotional problems that you're not dealing with. Like, there's no way, like, because the thing is, in my last job, I had so little. I was getting away with doing so little work that I really actually did almost nothing for months. Like, there were months where I did an hour or two of work in a month at my software job, and like, it's an excruciatingly miserable experience doing that. The only reason I was doing that is because I'm fucked up and I have problems, and I was drinking constantly and smoking weed constantly to desperately try to extinguish my like emotional drowning, basically. Like, it's not, maybe that's just me. Maybe there's people who can actually just do nothing and be happy, but I don't really believe I think people do that almost always because they're severely depressed or they have their problems they're not dealing with. Like, I always feel like ambition is the default state, and the only reason people aren't ambitious is because they're getting in their own way in various ways, and they're unable to solve the problems in the way. But
exactly,
I mean, I'm trying to solve. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And if I can tie that up, like, if I can go inside Wes's head, he could probably argue that we already live in America. We already live in a universal basic income system because so many of our needs are provided for. Are we getting a check each month? No, but like, we already live in a environment made comfortable, which UBI does. And so Wes would argue we don't need to put a hat on a hat. We already live in UBI. And like you said, Phil, we are called to do something, to work or do something meaningful or create value. And when we're not, we are miserable. And Phil and I know that. Everybody on this call knows that. I love that for those watching. So for those watching, we have 3 actionable items. Whether your ember of ambition is about to go out, or it's glowing, or it is like a nuclear fission rod like Wes's. Stop the subsidies. Understand yourself, which I think Phil and I are on that journey. And then join a team or a shared mission. You want to quit drinking? Join an AA home group. You want to deepen your relationship with God as you understand Him? Go to join a faith community. And you want to blow on that ember? You join a team like this. Wes, mic drop.
Absolutely love it. Well, I think what you both are saying is really outstanding. And Phil, to your point, I love the idea of, hey, addition through subtraction. I agree with you, Phil. None of us humans would be here when, in fact, I believe 99% of species are now extinct if you look through history. In order for us to be here as humans, our ancestors had to just be straight murderers. Like, to get through the level of competition and to be here today, your DNA is naturally ambitious. Otherwise, you wouldn't fucking be here. Like, that, in my opinion, is a mathematical fact. So I wonder what we have done is put fire blankets on top of the embers because of whatever reason, criticisms, rejection, or just wealthy, or we're just naturally wealthy in developed countries. So, or you're dulling your ember with weed or alcohol or video games or movies, entertainment, etc. But Phil, to your point, I wonder what would happen if we start removing those things. So rather trying to stoke the ember, how about you remove the things that are getting in the way of the ember's energy? Kyle, final words of wisdom, my friend.
2 things. 1, pick the right friend group, because you become basically the whole group as a whole.
Yep.
And then the second one is, set yourself up for success, regardless whether or not you're not in the mood for it or you feel like it's not going to be worth it. Small increments become the biggest mountain moving actionable items.
Love it. Absolutely love it. One other piece here, I'd really urge everybody to go and do the exercise that we talked about. And look for not the right answer, but look for the congruence of the answer. What level of life do you want, and what seeds are you planting? If the seeds are not congruent with what level of life you want, then be really careful, right? Like
Wes,
that is the error. Yep.
Can I make one more recommendation for those of us who have a low glow in their ember, whether it's permanent or just if their ember is kind of glowing low? Can they find our scorecard on the website? 10 daily habits they can do under an hour to really stack the wins.
Yep. Probably by the time people listen to this, it'll be available. Kyle's actually, that's part of his projects right now. So we are working on getting the scorecard up and running on its own domain, so that way people can easily go and download it. But highly recommend it when we have it up there. Rob,
wouldn't that blow on the ember?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. 100%. I think it's a great recommendation. Rob, final words of wisdom, my friend.
Honestly, I think that just surrounding yourself with great people is always going to do the best thing for you in your life, and having a sense of purpose. I mean, I think what Phil was saying is he lost a sense of purpose because he was coasting. And it's like exactly what I was saying, where it's like I wasn't sharpening my skills. In fact, I was regressing because I feel like I was rusting. And then if you take that for granted, or it's just, there's always a little bit of a hole. I think it's potentially, not to genderize it, but potentially a male thing that you have to have a sense of purpose to feel fulfilled. So find your sense of purpose, whatever it may be. The best dad, the best coder, the best. Put your best foot forward. You will.
Well said, my friend. Okay, later.